Okay, welcome to our Best of Inspire fiscal year 23. We're going to be talking a little bit about what Microsoft talked about at their partner conference. So you as a company can be prepared to be able to take advantage of all the things that Microsoft has the ability to help you with, especially in the ways that it helps accelerate different areas of your business. So we're going to cover the big messages that Microsoft talked about, and then we'll go into some of the programs and follow-on activities that you can take advantage of. What we'll cover today, we're going to cover Microsoft structure for fiscal year 23, their focus areas, their programs, and we also want you to be aware of our upcoming events. We have a really exciting event coming up in September and October. We are doing the Manufacturing Summit in Minneapolis on September 29th and in Brookfield on October 6th. This is a summit that includes keynote speakers as well as two different tracks of individual sessions tied to manufacturing-centric topics in the Microsoft space. So do not miss that event. They are in person. We will see you there, and they're absolutely going to be things that will be beneficial to your business in the manufacturing sector, or if you make things or produce things. So we're going to talk a little bit about Microsoft in this context, and in order to do so, it's important to understand how concurrency fits into that whole picture and the way that we think about the world in respect to those outcomes. One of the things that we really love about Microsoft as relates to tools in the toolbox is that it allows us to be able to impact below the line capabilities and above the line capabilities. Below the line capabilities are what we think about as preparing the organization to be able to be productive, enabling the organization with commodity-based capabilities to change the way they go about doing their daily work. So when we think about what IT delivers to the business, it's cloud transformation, enabling the business to build applications on the cloud, build data on the cloud, and then also enabling the daily work activities within your secure modern workplace. This is what the business is coming to expect from the IT organization. But when it thinks about driving revenue or operational savings, it thinks about that in the context of building its mission by using technology. And that's what Satya Nadella calls the digital imperative, the idea that we're not simply in the space of digital transformation anymore. We're in a space where we have to take advantage of the capabilities of digital to be able to fulfill the mission of our organization right now. It's the imperative of the digital transformation that we drive through our business to be able to bring new capabilities to our customers, our partners, and employees. And that's done through apps and products. It's done through data and AI. One of the things that concurrency thinks about in this space is delivering meaningful Microsoft work to every state within the United States that helps us to be able to drive that true outcome within our customers, and especially drive outcome that builds revenue, operational savings, or transformation of the workforce. So let's talk a little bit about how Microsoft is thinking about this in the new fiscal year. First off, Microsoft has structured their teams, their go-to-market teams, in 6 main disciplines. The first discipline is the infrastructure on which the cloud operates. So anything you build in the cloud is operating within the context of this Azure infrastructure. And when you move resources or light up resources within the cloud, you are going to do so within the context of that Azure infrastructure. So the Azure infrastructure conversation is about readying your organization to be able to leverage cloud capabilities and to govern them. On top of that infrastructure might be virtual machines or other resources, as well as specialized capabilities that they've called out within their go-to-market. So the first of those would be data and AI. We know that data and AI, especially from our vantage point, is one of the fastest growing capabilities within the cloud. And Microsoft has a team specifically focused on that. So if you're working with your organization to drive data and AI initiatives, know that Microsoft has a team focused on data and AI that can help you accelerate those initiatives. They also have a team very focused on digital innovation and app innovation. This is a brand new team. They just created this around the end of last year. Its focus is on cloud native application development and helping your organization to accelerate that. So if you have dev teams, you have teams that are starting to build applications within the cloud, they're not really talking about deploying virtual machines. They're talking about deploying containers or cloud native applications on app services or blockchain-based services or something using Azure Function. It's all building around digital innovation and app innovation, and there's a team that works on that specifically that you can partner with. There's also a team that works on business applications. This is your Power Platform. This is your Dynamics services. These are things that allow your business to be able to accelerate more quickly, especially companies that are starting to take advantage of Power Platform. They're doing so in a way that lets them accelerate every employee's usage of building custom apps, especially employees that had not previously built apps before. There's also a team around the modern workplace, the ability to drive productivity from the hybrid world in which we're living. Some companies are more in person, some companies are less in person. Most are running in some degree of hybrid. And the shift from the sort of full remote world to now the flexible world is something that the modern workplace is well established to be able to accomplish. But there's new capabilities coming out every day in that space. And that's where Microsoft has a team specifically to partner with you there. And then finally, cybersecurity, which encompasses most of these capabilities. You think about Azure infrastructure, you think about data and AI, think about business apps or modern workplace, they all encompass cybersecurity concerns. The ideas around data and AI with Purview, for example, bringing governance and security to the data that exists across the entire estate. Microsoft's doing a lot of work in the cybersecurity zone and has a specific team targeted toward that as well. So Microsoft's go-to-market for this year is very focused on these high-level disciplines. But then one other thing is really important. That also means that they have a focus on industry. So back 20 years ago, when I started to get involved in Microsoft ecosystems and working with customers of Microsoft's, one of the things that was the case is there weren't really a lot of industry capabilities or focus. It was very much you're a certain size of customer or you're a different size of customer. You're bigger, you're smaller, you're medium size. And what Microsoft has really been doing over the last several years is pivoting toward industry verticals. So one of the reasons why concurrency has gone national is because we've very much aligned ourselves to certain types of verticals that have aligned in a national space. So you think about manufacturing as an idea. Instead of just having a rep that works with a bunch of customers in, let's say, Milwaukee, they have a rep that works with manufacturing customers in Milwaukee, Chicago, Colorado, Wyoming, whatever, that all sort of align in common degrees. Same kind of idea with financial services or retail, the new digital ISV group, as well as the healthcare, sustainability, and nonprofit. What this has done is those companies that are in professional services, utilities, energy, they have consolidated. They're what's kind of left of the regions. So, for example, Midwest has consolidated with the West region to form like a mega region, which kind of takes out the idea of a region in the first place, but it allows us to be able to what they're essentially doing is pulling things out of the region and moving them into the different types of verticals that exist, to a point where I kind of wonder if the regions will ultimately sunset in the favor of having everything be a vertical. We'll see what happens. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about the functional domains that we called out before and then go to market. So there's 6 of them. And the first of those that we're going to talk about is infrastructure, which is really the spot on which everything lives. Inside the context of this, I think it's important to call out that I think this is the most important thing that Satya Nadella started his conversation with, and that is the idea of the digital imperative. That is that now more than ever, and especially as we are navigating some very uncertain economic times, the idea that your business needs to be built on technology as a component of your mission, and the mission being brought to your customers via technology, and it being necessary for you to thrive is imperative. So the digital imperative is about, this is no longer just like the digital transformation as an optional thing. It's about digital being a necessary thing for the survival of your business, and how digital facilitates that even more so than it did even in the pandemic. So the infrastructure domain is really about serving the use cases that are being lit up within the context of that. So the first of those being the existence of your legacy data center operations moving into what you would call Horizon 2, the move of just traditional virtual machines into a better operational state running within the cloud, protecting them, organizing them, controlling them, putting them in a position where the organization is ready to be able to operate those in a way which is more efficient, mitigates the need for on-premise data centers, implements additional security controls, and so on. But many of these things also are being driven by cloud native applications, which is a completely different horizon state. It's building these cloud native applications that are running the context of your business, that are built into your mission. The reason I bring this up is because one of the most important parts of this infrastructure go-to-market for Microsoft is making sure you're prepared to run these two states, or even just one of them, that you're prepared operationally to operate those. So what we're hearing from Inspire is that companies are not wanting to maintain their on-premise infrastructure, that migrations are not unusual anymore. This is what's happening. This is the normal state, that people are moving to the cloud is the typical assumption of a business. That training's well established, but many companies haven't used that training. That best practices are well established, but many companies haven't used it, and that migration rationale is well defined. But then again, many companies, they still don't understand that migration rationale. So there's a lot of positioning happening here. So how is Microsoft helping in this particular space? First, there's the introduction of governance best practices. They exist. This is well defined. You don't have a lot of unknowns in this position anymore. We have a lot of companies that have done this. It's not something we're reinventing from the ground up. It's called the Cloud Adoption Framework, and we take advantage of it and use it. We have the migration assessment and its capabilities to be able to provide us a good insight into what the existing estate or the planned estate looks like. Microsoft helps also with migration planning, readiness and training credits so people can get upskilled, and then also supplementary migration funding. So what this looks like is the combination of these two different programs. So starting from the left-hand corner, we're going to use two different programs that Microsoft has to be able to aid us in our vision. So if our game plan is to take advantage of the cloud via migration or modernized apps, this allows us to do so. So the first is we need to learn about the cloud governance and landing zone. Solution Assessment Program has a workshop that lets us gain insight into what that cloud landing zone looks like. It's not the full end-to-end. It doesn't implement it. It's not enough for a full training plan, but it lets us just at least get the vision into what that actually looks like. It lets us assess the estate for migration. So if our game plan is to migrate our established estate to the cloud, or simply to deploy new workloads within the cloud, we can assess our estate for that purpose. And then we can build the cloud qualifying events picture, which allows us to then define what we want to put in the cloud, what we don't want to put in the cloud, and how that overall operational state is going to be run by our organization. So a solution assessment program lets us do these three things. Once you've made a decision that something's going to the cloud, there's a program called AMP. And AMP lets us leverage funding and training capabilities to be able to upskill our team. So it helps us with funding for establishing the Center of Excellence, for establishing the Migration Factory, for actually onboarding the migrating platforms, up to $250,000 per data center being migrated. It's a lot of funding, people. Like, this isn't just kind of like nothing. And it also can help up to $250,000 per modernized app. So if you have an application you're building from the ground up, and it's a big consuming application, note this is tied to consuming Azure, that is also an opportunity within the AMP program. So the cloud program is about educating you about what an operational state looks like, assessing it and planning it, building out the Center of Excellence, building out the landing zone and the governance, migrating, or building the custom app. And these two programs won't pay for everything because there's going to be some investment necessary from your organization, but they certainly will help. And we've used them in many to be able to take the edge off or to provide the training necessary for an organization to be successful. The next is around app innovation. Microsoft knows that some of the most successful companies are building custom apps that are tied to their mission. So whether it's high scale container applications that are being used, it's converting existing applications, or it's leveraging low code into toolchain into Azure DevOps as a set of tooling that can allow us to be very successful at enabling our skilled developers, ones that have built their whole career around development, or ones with the Power Platform that are doing other function within the business, but now can use low code to be able to accomplish their capability faster, and with technology to be able to accelerate and force multiply what they do. So in a similar way to which we were preparing our operational state, understand that this team's goal is to enable this cloud native applications in the DevOps operational state. So what Microsoft does in this space is they enable envisioning on digital apps. So they focus on helping us to take advantage of digital applications built from the ground up inside of your Azure environment. Envisioning, enabling, thinking about it, designing it, planning it, building it. They provide supplementary funding to build and innovate those apps. So some things that you could take advantage of here. First, App of the Future workshops. If you have an application that you are thinking about building in the cloud, take advantage of this. They will pay for us to come work with you for a series of workshops to build out that App of the Future design, to think about what its overall architecture is, what its business case is, the different aspects of that. Now, you don't get a ton done in 10K of funding, but you certainly move down the road in establishing what you're trying to get to. It's a great program for us to get started. There's also the migration and modernization assessment. This is also part of the solution assessment program where you assess a specific application and build the plan to move it to the cloud. And then AMP can help fund your application being moved in the cloud. We have a customer that is moving a high-scale data application in the cloud, and they're getting the $250,000 worth of funding as a part of that migration project. Now, the whole project might be $1 million of professional services, but hey, if I can get $250,000, why wouldn't I? It's also providing you additional support. So once you start engaging AMP, you can get credits for your architects and engineers to go get Azure DevOps training or Git training or container training. So, and then certified. So that way you can be prepared to be able to take advantage of this once they're there. The next area would be data. Data on the cloud is something that is also an imperative. The idea that your data within your organization can be taken advantage of to be able to drive operational savings for the back ends of the business, or new revenue production, like many of our customers, via AI or interfaces that allow us to take advantage of all that information we have and bring it to the surface. What we're seeing is that companies are taking advantage of Microsoft's intelligent data platform to be able to build that kind of value. So what is Microsoft trying to do? What Microsoft's trying to do here is help us to climb the data maturity curve, moving from manual data and reporting up through the framework into the machine learning space. This is the spot that we see companies having some challenges doing on their own, needing some help to be able to say, what exactly does that look like? Like, I know the diagram, I've seen the architecture, I've heard people talk about it, but what's the right choices for me to make from a data movement standpoint? What's the right choices for me to make from how I store that data? How do I protect it? What's the right way for me to surface it for my customers? The modern data framework, the intelligent data platform, is how I then drive that up into these higher levels of capability that then, because the data exists, I can start seeing outcomes of predictive intelligence and prescriptive intelligence, and then true storytelling. So what Microsoft's programs do here, they can enable envisioning on digital platforms, finding opportunities for modernization, supplementary funding. And ultimately, there's two main platform opportunities. The first is what they call Data Platform in 30 days. That's about $21,000 of funding that can be used to help you with the first version of this, to help you do a pilot, to help you experiment or investigate where you're going to move your data estate and how you're going to use it and what are the opportunities to move in the future. And then as that gets further defined, the data platform opportunity can be, again, up to $250,000 of funding to be able to help drive that next step. Now, if your use case isn't a lot of consumption, then it won't be that as much as 250K, but it might be something. And it also can provide those other supplementary benefits like training and certifications and so on. So its primary goal is to drive a high degree of engagement across your business. The final area that we're going to talk about is Microsoft 365. productivity, and security. This is also what Microsoft calls the digital imperative. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, would we have predicted that we needed so much of this capability to be able to just work? Now we know it's just a default of how we go about doing what we do. Microsoft 365 is a capability that's really allowed our customers to be able to enable true modern work and hybrid work across their organization. Most of our customers have hired all over the United States or globally. This enables them to be effective at doing what they do. But there's so much more capability than just turning on a Teams meeting. This is where we aim to drive that extended capability. So that's moving up the modern workplace maturity curve. It's moving from where some people just stop, which is, okay, hey, cool, I can do stuff in Teams, to driving the relationship between that and conditional access controls, the true zero trust model for devices and identity. And then from a productivity standpoint, that's Teams as a platform, it's Teams Voice, it's digital workplace, it's Viva, it's building a center of excellence. So this drives what Microsoft programs do here is, and again, enablement. So first, there's these wonderful workshops. There's these great workshops that allow you as a customer to get insight into how these teams are delivered and how these capabilities are delivered through the M365 set of technologies. Security workshop and productivity workshops surrounding Microsoft E5. What's their incentive? They're trying to get you to go to E5. Why is it worthwhile? Because E5 has a lot of capabilities and we want to learn about them. So security and productivity workshops allow us to investigate that. And then ultimately, that's about adopting three things. Modern identity and security, that's your Azure AD, that's Azure AD Join, it's leveraging security across the estate. It's a modern productivity estate and enabling the modern productivity estate within our organizations beyond just using Teams, and the modern desktop estate. It's modern desktop meaning Azure AD Join never gets connected to the network. It's never using VPN, any device, anywhere, using any app. We have a customer of over 30,000 users that is right now deploying modern desktop. Truly, from any device, anywhere, they can do their work. That's the idea behind modern desktop. It's moving to the true zero trust model. And the goal of these workshops is to enable an organization to be able to have insight into these different parts of the picture and what they ultimately mean. So our goal is to take your organization forward in any of these journeys. Which of these are the most important to you? How can you take that journey this year and bring that forward, both in educating your team and leveraging the capabilities that Microsoft facilitates, plus also leveraging the funding that they're going to throw at you when you decide to move down the track. So as you start to take advantage of any of these journeys, realize that there's funding, education, and direction for each of these. This is a told story already. And what we just need to do is understand what that story is and position ourselves to be successful. Also, as a follow-up to this, don't forget about the Manufacturing Summit coming in Minneapolis and Brookfield, coming up at the end of September and early October. This is going to be an awesome in-person event. I've done so many more in-person meetings lately, and it's fantastic. I love it. We have great keynotes scheduled. Absolutely check this out. Let's be in a position to be able to be there in person and really take advantage of it. Awesome. Thank you and appreciate your time.